Today we begin a two-part discussion on the Copley Woods abduction. We'll start by meeting Budd Hopkins, discuss his credentials, and his investigation into the abductions of Kathie Davis and her family. Unlike most abduction stories we've covered, Kathie seems to have had a life filled with abductions, but she only remembers the beginning or the end of these experiences, filling in the blanks with hypnotic regression. Today, we'll start covering these encounters and also discuss truck stops. I'm Mike.
I'm Ian.
And I'm Dave. If you're a fan of UFO abduction stories, stick around and join me in praying that the subject of tonight's story is not subjected by Mike to the same slanderous vitriol that has been so unceremoniously heaped upon the late great Betty Hill on numerous occasions on this award-winning podcast. Lord, hear our prayers. This is Necronomipod.
This is the ultimate Copernican revolution because the evidence suggests, beyond any doubt as far as I'm concerned, that we're being visited by some form of intelligence which is higher than ours, and some kind of technology which is higher than ours, and it is able to pick up human beings at will as objects of study, the way we might a lesser species, and diddle with their memories, their ability to recall. Physical operations take place which leave physical marks on their bodies. There's an extensive interest in human genetics. This seems to be the core of the whole thing. To admit all of those things as possibility, as a real possibility, is to be staggered. So we keep it at arm's length conveniently.
Ian, it's been a little while since your research fucked up our schedule.
It's been a while.
Yeah, here we are. Is this the first one of 2022?
Yeah.
The first, hey guys, I think it's going to be a two-parter.
I was surprised too because I didn't think this one would be.
Have we ever done a UFO or alien two-parter?
Not that I can think of. Maybe Skinwalker Ranch.
Yeah, I think
maybe.
That was. But that's people like the alien stuff.
Yeah. I think Betty and Barney Hill would probably be a two-parter.
I got some stuff to say about that one.
Yeah, if we redid that, I think that would be a two-parter.
As referenced in the opener.
I don't know. People like the aliens, though. We don't do them as often. So this will be a nice one.
Yeah, people wanted more.
I'm kayfabing because we got the notes 2 hours ago, so I did not get a chance to read them before this.
Yeah, this was a close call episode. I was behind.
It's all right. Yeah. I've read them.
Good.
I can adapt.
Not I. So I'm going to learn on the fly here.
Next time we do something, I'm going to need to plan ahead for it. Going to Slipknot kind of fucked me up Monday night. Threw me off.
Very specific on his schedule. And
Ian's see what happened is I did a thing one time and it threw me off because I had to leave my house.
I was out of my house for one night and my whole week is fucked up.
And this became a two-parter now because of it somehow.
Good Slipknot show, though.
Fuck yeah.
Wage War. Outstanding. Loved them.
Yeah, those dudes were good. In This Moment won me over.
You're a big In This Moment fan now.
Yeah.
I feel like people are hot and cold, just either hot or cold on In This Moment.
I didn't love it.
Them or don't.
I didn't love it when I listened to it, but then seeing them live, I really enjoyed it. So I gave them a second chance. And
yeah, I don't love it.
It's definitely an entertaining live show. The music, you can love or not, but
yeah,
there's a stage show that's there. It's like Marilyn Manson-esque type, it's a performance they're putting on. You could just kind of get hammered and watch it.
Yeah.
Original plan was that I would drive home. So I got really fucking high, abnormally high for myself. Cause I'm I'm going to get really fucked up and then I'll be good to drive home. Dave didn't end up driving, Dave ended up driving home anyways, but so for In This Moment, I was just fucking in my own little bubble. I was completely quiet. I didn't clap or anything. I was just watching the show, hanging out, just absorbing it all in.
It's is this real life?
They had this big fucking light up triangle and shit, a big pentagram.
Isn't that like the kid coming out of the anesthesia? Is this real life?
Am I in a new dimension?
And you've listened to them now sober and still a fan?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Just want to make sure.
Yeah, it's grown on me. There's a couple other bands that that's happened with in life.
Yeah.
Or I see him live and I'm like, oh, maybe I should change my mind on this.
Like Justin Bieber.
Never seen Justin Bieber live.
Yeah, sorry.
Wouldn't that be an experience?
I would go.
You and 30,000 screaming young women.
Yeah.
Chris Hansen shows up. He just sits right next to you. What are you doing now? Just found popcorn casually watching the show, talking to you. So I don't know. That's all I have. You guys got anything you want to touch off or start the show off with?
I think, was it last week we were talking about driving? And we were talking about how Dave brought up how he doesn't stop at stop signs. He just kind of rolls through, does whatever he wants. Was that last
what the
week?
Fuck episode was that?
It was recent.
It all blends together.
He just kind of, I don't obey the local traffic laws necessarily. Like,
was this? But what episode was that?
I don't know. One of them might have been a bonus episode.
I think it was a bonus show. Some people might not be familiar with what we're discussing.
Like laws stating that you can't have an open container in the passenger seat. Like that doesn't apply to me. That's a ridiculous law.
So Slipknot's the longest I've ever been in a car with him driving.
Yeah.
Very aggressive driver over here. My edible kicked in and I was super fucked up sitting in the back seat and he's just like aggressively driving, but we're at a stop sign and there's this little old lady in front of us. She wasn't there that long. She stopped for like maybe 5 seconds longer. He beeps his horn at her and goes, fuck around on your own time. Don't fuck around on mine. I'm like, God damn.
She was at a stop sign for 5 seconds.
No, it was 3 people at a stop sign. The first person went. She wasn't moving. She was doing some activity in her car. I was trying to get downtown, have a few beers before Slipknot.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to stand for it. You want to do business, pull off into a lot somewhere.
I don't disagree. 5 seconds is a long ass time to sit at a stop sign too. That's what I was saying.
If you're on the road and I'm on the road, that makes it our time, not just your time.
I didn't feel like it was worthy of honking the horn, but
Well, you were wrong.
I like that. Fuck around on your own time, not mine.
They recently put in a roundabout out by us. I think we've talked about this. Yeah. And that threw a kink in everybody because they don't know what the fuck to do with a roundabout. Apparently no one knows what a yield sign is. They think it's a stop sign. And
or a go sign. There's no in between. Like they don't know what yield means.
Right. But
it's
I'd
either they don't
have
look
the
at
person
all.
Go. At least you're being aggressive. Be more aggressive, in my opinion. But like these people creep up to these yield signs. There's a car like in sight, a quarter of a mile away. They're waiting, and I just lay on the horn. I'm like, you don't stop. You just merge in. It's a roundabout, but it only has 3 entrances and exits, and not even a full 4-way roundabout. They can't figure it out.
Yeah, I grew up in the city. I'm not for this hillbilly driving out here and how they drive out there. Fucking go. Don't fuck around in front of me. I'm not standing for it.
Well, you get an eye-opening experience.
I will push you out of the way with my Jeep.
He's in the back seat sweating like, I'm freaking out, man.
Well, then Just Brew Christie started talking shit on the old lady too. And I'm like, what are we going to do? Like, get out and fuck this old lady up? Like, why is everybody so mad about it?
She knows.
This lady's going to pull out of her car and beat down. He's just sitting in the back seat like, what are we doing?
Trying to get the Slipknot, bitch. Get out of my way.
That's great.
See what you missed, Mike?
Yeah.
Big pussy, staying home.
That's it. All right.
That's all I got.
Ian's like, yeah, I'm driving every time from now on. I'm not doing that again.
No, because I know I'm going to get judged for how I drive. I drive too slow or something.
No, I don't. I think Dave and I drive similar. We don't necessarily judge the person who's driving us. We're just happy to have a DD, I think.
Yeah, you drive however you want. If I'm in the back seat, I don't give a fuck. I don't even. I'd rather not drive.
You got a beer in your hand.
Yeah,
you
I don't care.
My only issue is, we're going to downtown Cleveland. That's a 45-minute drive. Homie's going to have to pee before we get halfway there. And then I have to hold it in. So then, like, by the time we get downtown, we are in a dire situation. And that's when I need things to hurry up. I have jumped out of the car before in downtown Cleveland, sitting in gridlock, and ran to the nearest facility.
That's true, he has.
Because when I had to go,
I can't hold it no more.
and I cannot go in like a car and with like people next to me. Like, I'm not doing a Gatorade bottle with people around me. I just can't. I'm a nervous peer. Can't happen. I can pee my pants, I think, in a car, but I can't pee in a bottle. Like, I can't just willingly let loose. So,
yeah, I've seen him run through traffic downtown.
It has
a
happened.
pisser. Well, Ian, I apologize for.
Oh no,
You scarred him, pal. He's going to have to go do something nice for an old lady now just to feel better. That good karma.
I forget when there's like people in the car who don't regularly drive with me and they're not accustomed to my aggressive style of maneuvering the vehicle.
I was really high though too. I was like overthinking sitting in the back seat because we had to go pick up other people. So I was just chilling in the back. And
you don't like the back seat?
well, no, because there was no one else in the front seat. So I'm like, I kind of feel like you're chauffeuring me around. I was like overthinking.
Better get used to that, pal. That's in your future.
What, being a stolen chauffeur?
Yeah, you'll be a big time podcast star.
We'll see.
Gets your chauffeured around. So, all right. Well, let's jump into this one. This is not the Copley Woods, as in Copley by us, I'm assuming, in Northeast Ohio.
It is not.
No. Unfortunately, that'd be cool, right?
We don't have a ton of or alien stories around here, do we?
No.
We got Jeffrey Dahmer.
I'd trade him in for a good alien abduction story.
For sure.
All right.
So the story we're going to get into tonight was documented in the book Intruders by Budd Hopkins. We haven't really talked about Budd Hopkins in any of our previous episodes, but Budd was considered to be the founder of research into alien abduction phenomena. Budd was born in 1931 in Wheeling, West Virginia, and that is where he grew up. Budd was a really smart guy and kind of a heavy hitter in the art world. He graduated from Oberlin College in Ohio with a degree in art history, and from there he moved to New York City to continue his studies in art at Columbia University. He received multiple prestigious grants for his paintings and ended up being elected to the National Academy of Design as a full-time Academy member.
Just like you, Mike, for your t-shirt designs, right?
Mm-hmm.
Big in the art world.
Right. Well, I am pretty artistic as
Yeah,
my design show. So he was a member of the Academy, unlike Will Smith.
Correct.
Okay. See, you think if Chris Rock would have had that after his joke, it would have been like, oh, ha, ha, ha.
Yeah, or he should have said, in all due respect.
Yeah.
Then you can say whatever you want.
Respectfully.
See that? Yeah, that's where he fucked up.
The ba-dum-tsh makes everything better too, though, right? Like, it's just like, oh.
It eases it a bit.
That's right.
I can get bitch slapped.
The first thing skeptics or whatever could say is that, like, yeah, this guy's a high-level artist, but why would that make him qualified to be taken serious when it comes to UFO investigations or anything scientific? And I guess it's valid because we've talked about nuclear physicists and things like that, but Budd was a witness who wanted to figure out what was going on with the UFO phenomena, and he surrounded himself with people to assist him in that research.
Yeah, I'm not sure that's a fair criticism. People start out doing lots of things and merge into other fields. If you're a smart person, you're a smart person.
Yeah, that's a big thing with debunkers. We'll point to with him. It's like, he's not qualified to do anything.
Like anyone's qualified to assess UFOs,
Right.
Really.
Well, Ian is, but that's it. Him and Philip Klass, that's it.
In August of 1964, Budd and two of his friends saw a daytime UFO, which was a dark metallic object hovering over Cape Cod. Budd reported the sighting to the Otis Air National Guard base, but was pretty much written off. From there, through reading UFO literature and things like that, Budd joined MUFON and began investigating cases on his own. Eventually, he got focused solely on the abduction aspect of the UFO phenomena and worked closely with hypnotist Dr. Aphrodite Clamar to use hypnotic regression on people who had seen UFOs and then experienced missing time or odd dreams that seemed very real.
I know it's a whole nother show, most likely, but isn't kind of that hypnotic regression stuff the same sort of thing that led to the satanic panic and kind of implanted memories sort of thing?
It's definitely not a exact science.
Yeah. Where people had migraines, they went to a doctor and I just discovered my parents were in a satanic cult and molested me since I was 2 years old in the basement. Like that whole implanted memory thing that ended up sending a lot of people to jail for the, right?
Yeah.
Isn't that what the satanic panic was?
Mm-hmm. Most credible UFO books are ones, the cases that we'll cover. There's always some note of it in there that this is not an exact science, but this is all we have to go off of.
It's interesting because we've talked about, several of the UFO hypnosis stuff. It'd be interesting to talk about that satanic panic and kind of contrast and compare.
Go the other route on it. Yeah, because if you have something, if you're watching UFO shows or something. Like, he clearly could be a tainted subject.
Yeah, right. Because who knows what's in your subconscious?
That's why Betty and Barney Hill was so unique, because they were kept separate from it. All that anybody knew were Betty's dreams that she talked about. All that real in detail stuff, they never talked to each other about. They never got to hear each other's hypnotic regressions. And so that one's a little better.
Well, and hence my prayer at the beginning, in the opening of the show, that we don't devolve into any of that kind of talk this evening.
I mean, I have no evidence thus far that there's been any illegal substance abuse yet. We'll see what happens. His name is Budd, but I don't think he was doing a bud weed, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
He was one of them academia types, so you never know, Mike.
I'm just saying I have no evidence thus far. We'll see.
You ever seen Reefer Madness? You know what them learned types are into.
Budd wrote multiple books on the subject. His first one was Missing Time in 1981, which is a collection of his research. He was putting forth patterns seen in abduction victims and made a case for the credibility of alien abductions. Then in 1987, he came out with this book, Intruders, about a specific woman who was being abducted multiple times, and her family and friends who were also witness to some of the phenomena. And that book is what we're going to be using tonight. Everyone's name in the book had been changed, which is good on Budd for honoring that request. But the person at the center of this was called Kathie Davis in the book. She has since come out and done interviews and things like that using her real name, which is Debbie Jordan-Kauble. For the sake of confusion, we're just going to stick with aliases for this whole episode, because everybody, all her parents, everybody has aliases.
Yeah.
You know who else does? Jennifer Garner.
Oh, yeah?
Oh, boy.
She was the show Alias.
Oh, that went way over my head.
Dave, I'm going to need you to be on point when I throw out those random, ridiculous, stupid jokes. You get fucking an intern in here just to pick up on all that shit. I'll hire someone. We'll pay him next to nothing.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll just pay him nothing.
Well, he can have some beer, or she, or whoever we hire.
Oh, yeah. Free beer for the interns.
But we'll pay them. And then they just got to do little soundboard gimmicks. Yeah, right. Like Dave's ever given up that soundboard.
Not a chance.
It's the highlight of his week is coming up with new stuff. Can I pee real quick?
You just went like before we started the show.
Don't put it in my head. I'm going to have to.
So we'll get to Debbie or Kathie Davis's current situation at the end of part 2. But we're just going to go with Kathie for this. When Budd Hopkins wrote Missing Time, he put a P.O. box at the end and said if anyone had any experiences of missing time coupled with UFO sightings, he wanted to hear from them. Dr. J. Allen Hynek did this in some of his books, and both Hynek and Budd Hopkins admit that 99% of what they got was just crazy nonsense.
Like our P.O. box. Like used panties.
God damn, you got to start sharing that with us.
Kidding.
We need to have a used panties wall. Like, I don't know, my only reference to it is fucking Willie Mays Hayes in Major League. Whenever he steals a base, he puts the batting glove up.
Right.
I just want to use panty, or boxers, whatever is sent to us, boxer briefs. Send them to us, put them on the wall. Please don't actually send us your used.
I'm kidding. We've never gotten any such thing in
undergarments.
the P.O. box.
We have not.
I apologize. It was crass.
We actually don't get much in the P.O. box.
No.
Not really.
Stickers that come back because people don't know their home address.
Or sometimes because you forget to put an address on it. Like last time I went to the P.O. box, there was a blank envelope from you to you. And I was like, hey, pal, I think this one might have stuck to the back of another envelope because there is nothing on this.
That did happen.
I had some sassy old lady yelling at me because I was trying to go get a package at like 5:02 and they closed it at 5. And I was like, I'm sorry.
So a bunch of the stuff they received was crazy stuff. But Budd received one from Kathie Davis in September of 1983 that kicked off a multiple-year investigation. For context, the Davises live in Copley Woods outside of Indianapolis. It's not exactly a rural area, but there's enough woods out there that the neighbors have privacy. At the time, Kathie was a 24-year-old divorcee living back at home with her mother, Mary, her father, Robert, and her 2 kids, Tommy and Rob. They were a pretty well-off family, upper middle class. And her letter to Budd Hopkins read, quote,
It's a long one. Bear with me, people. Dear Diary, my 18-year-old camp director was looking at me funny this past week. She told me that if I touched her breasts, she would touch mine. I'm just kidding.
Wrong story.
Sorry. Had my other notes out. Around the first week of July, 1983, at around 8 or 9 p.m., I was preparing to go out and sew a little at a neighbor's home. And while I was standing at the kitchen window, I noticed a light in the pool house, and the door was open. I remember shutting it earlier, so I knew it wouldn't be open, let alone have the light on, so I mentioned it to Mom. She looked around and wondered what was up, but neither of us was alarmed. When I got ready to leave, I decided to drive round the turnaround to make sure no one was out there, as Mom would be alone with the kids, my sons, Robert, 4, and Tommy, 3. When I did, the light was off and the door shut, and the garage door was open, which is always kept shut. When I got to Deanne's house, a street over, I called my mom and told her what I saw and asked if she'd like me to come home and check it out. And she sounded rather nervous, which is not at all like my mom. She said she'd seen a big light by the pool house and it moved up to the bird feeder and grew to about 2 feet in diameter. But she didn't see any beam. It was just like a spotlight on the bird feeder, lighting it up, but nothing else was around it. When I got there, it was gone, and I looked all around the property with my dad's .22. I'm a chicken. I did finally find my dog Penny hiding under a car out back. Usually she carries on something fierce when anyone she doesn't know is on our property. It's not like her to hide and have to be coaxed out from anywhere, especially by me. She's usually all over me. I didn't see anything, so I went back to sew, and later that night, Dee and I and her daughter came back about midnight and went swimming. Right after that night, our yard was burned. By what, we don't know. Nothing will grow there now, no matter how much water we give it, and wild animals won't go on it. At first, even Penny would walk halfway around the yard to avoid walking on it. She'd sniff it and run the other way. Birds will no longer go near the bird feeder either, and we always had tons of birds every day, especially red birds. Well, that's the story of our backyard mystery. It's still here for anyone who wants to see it, more or less unchanged. Now about Laura. My sister Laura is 35 years old. She's always been very level-headed and not much imagination, always the realist. Anyway, in the summer about 1965, she left one evening about 4:30 p.m. to take my mother to bingo. On the way home from dropping her off, she was passing the church on 10th Street. She suddenly was compelled to pull into the church parking lot around back. She noticed there weren't any cars around and thought it quite strange for a Sunday afternoon in that busy area. When she parked, she looked up and saw something she'd never believed before then. It was silver, and I believe she said the lights were red, green, and white, flashing somewhat. Flickering might be a better word. It was hovering soundlessly over the lot above the telephone pole, high right over her car. All she remembers now is she reached over to turn down her radio to see if it made noise, and the next thing she remembers is it's dark out, and she looks up, and this thing is gone, and she's driving down the street. When she went to get my mom that night, they drove around looking for it, but never saw anything else. About 10 years or so later, about 1975, Laura went to get hypnotized to lose weight, and while her girlfriend who went with her did great, she experienced some quite terrifying experiences. The first night she came home after hypnosis. After she went to bed, she woke up and she couldn't talk or hear. She also suffered temporary distortion in her vision. Her husband took her to the emergency room and they gave her tranquilizers and sent her home. This went on, gradually getting better. She noticed that she was going the exact opposite of what the hypnotist had suggested. He told her that potato chips and candy were fat slices. I guess it would gross out her subconscious and she wouldn't want to eat them. But instead, every time she ate them, she felt markedly better. And when she called the hypnotist to ask what the heck was happening to her and could he fix it, the moment she heard his voice, she became violent and wanted to kill him. You have to know Laura. She's very much not at all like this. Very common sense, down to earth, easygoing. He suggested she had some sort of block and that it would probably be best if she didn't see him anymore to go to someone else. The effects gradually wore off, but she was left with one strong thought, that by the year 2000, the world would be totally different than we know it, but it would be only for the young and strong. My mother and I have had a couple of unusual experiences, mine mostly in the form of vivid dreams, and Mother and I both have the same scar on our right legs. She said she got hers when she was a girl playing outside. I don't remember when I got mine, but it seems like I had it all my life. They are in the same place and look exactly alike. A nurse once told me it looked like a scar left by a bone marrow test or a pin inserted into my shin bone from a break. At first, I had only one scar, but now I have two on the same leg, about 3.5 inches apart. I got this one when I was about 13, but I can't for the life of me remember how. I used to play in the woods by the pond a lot, and I may have got it there, but I don't remember now.
It's a lot to unpack in one letter.
That's a hell of a letter.
So Bud's like, hey, maybe I should look into this.
Yeah, this one got his attention.
Yeah.
Why did this one? Like, what about it sparked? Because, I mean, on the surface, this could be any of that 99% that you just get.
Well, I bet
Was it?
the other 99% are like, I was taken to the planet Gorko where I met the Lizard King and, crazy shit.
So they
like
left
that.
a lot more questions than answers.
This one
in
seems like
You gotta-
something might be a little off.
What is it, the Gorko King?
Yeah, I don't know.
Did you just make that up?
Yeah.
My next artwork, I'm going to draw the Gorko King.
You should do it.
There has to be a solid chunk of those that are just people being trolls. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. They're writing fan fiction.
Yeah, like when we talk...
Like our paranormal erotica with, dinosaur fucking and stuff like that.
Even our listener sex stories, half that shit's probably made up.
Yeah, exactly.
We don't have that crazy horn dog of listeners.
Of course we do. Stop it.
When we get to the Hudsonville sightings, J. Allen Hynek set up a voicemail thing for people to call and stuff. Dude, he got so much dumb shit, like people leaving him voicemails and stuff. So there's so much that is that's garbage.
Well, of course. A lot of jokers out there in the world.
This one's odd. The light is pretty strange. And obviously what piqued his interest was the fact that there's the burn mark on the ground where grass won't grow, animals won't go to. And she provided pictures of it.
Like it permanently scorched the area.
Right. And I know like some interviews, her father was like real particular about the grass, and he tried everything he could think of to do to get it to grow back. And it just, that perfect circular spot would not grow back. The one about her sister Laura is like classic UFO stuff, because she went down a street that she was like, I don't know why I would have ever gone down that street. It doesn't make any sense. Betty and Barney Hill, same thing. They took that back road, and looking back, I'm like, we would never take that route. I don't know why, Barney's like, I don't know why I did that. And then the other one with Laura, she's talking about the world being different by the year 2000.
And we've seen that before. A lot of that future dystopian kind of.
Yeah. And there's all of these
stuff.
Like Aerial School. We just did that one. A lot of that warning about the future and stuff.
Yep.
And the scars, her and her mom, identical scars.
Getting to the alien implant idea.
This story has it all.
She certainly did touch on a little bit of everything. The only thing missing from this compared to Betty and Barney Hill is that she doesn't appear to have been previously obsessed with getting abducted.
I don't know that I would say Betty was obsessed with it.
When she all fired up, her sister.
Her sister saw a UFO, but she was like, oh man, I wish I would have seen one. It's not like getting all fired up about it. It's not like every day of the week she was like, oh man, I wanted to see a UFO.
I'd like to ask Barney about that.
I don't think the Lord heard my prayer at the beginning of the show.
I'm saying this girl did not have that same.
Well, I think what makes this case pretty credible is the amount of people that were interviewed in relation to this, because Budd Hopkins got in contact with Kathie and then started interviewing her family and friends. Then with Dr. Aphrodite Clamar, Kathie went through multiple sessions of hypnotic regression. Most of her recounting of events are like a dream. She remembers bits and pieces. Sometimes she remembers the beginning and the end and no middle. Sometimes she doesn't remember the beginning at all. Like she's like, I don't even remember falling asleep. I was just doing something. And the next thing I know, it's nighttime and I'm in bed. And just a whole lot of confusion about what's going on.
I would very much dislike that. It would make me feel like I was losing my mind.
Yeah, if you're just like,
not a fan of that.
Like 2 hours are gone, you're like, I don't know what happened.
I don't want that.
That doesn't seem pleasant.
The letter she sent Budd was talking about a 1983 sighting, and through that hypnotic regression, Budd was able to piece together a timeline that Kathie had been getting abducted since 1966 when she was a little girl. So we're going to go in chronological order of her experiences because the book starts in 83, then he pulls out something from 78 and it's all jumbled. And then the end of the book, it's like, okay, here's the cohesive thing that he was able to put together.
Yeah, it's probably easier to go through a linear timeline than to bounce around like that. It makes it hard to follow.
Yeah. Like it works for the book.
Yeah.
But for a podcast episode,
sure.
no.
We're clearly not a book.
No.
Unless your book have pee breaks in them. Which, by the way, can I pee real quick? We got an ad break coming up. I can hold it.
From their regression, it's assumed that the first abduction would have been in the winter of 1966. It's definitely 66, but winter is assumed. Kathie and her sister Laura were in Detroit, Michigan to visit friends that moved there. It sounds like it was family friends and the family had kids their age. Kathie went outside to play, and then all of a sudden, there was a bright flash of light that made her take off. She got lost and came upon a house that she thought was her friend's house, but there was something off about it. There was snow on the ground, but the front door of this house was wide open, which in her regression, she's like, it's weird. It's cold outside. There's snow, but the door is open. Kathie said she went inside, and there was a strange-looking family standing there, almost like they were waiting for her. She didn't say what made them strange exactly, just that something about their appearance was off. One of the people inside this house, a little boy, walked forward and took her to what he called his playroom. This room was round, white, and had no windows. Once they were inside the room, the little boy said, quote, "I'm going to play a trick on you." And he made a small cut in Kathie's shin with a tiny knife. For a second, the boy didn't look like a boy anymore. Almost like the pain from that cut made Kathie see past the disguise for a second. The boy had changed to a small humanoid being with a large head and gray skin. After a period of time, which Kathie couldn't determine how long, she was sent out of the house by the strange family. As she was walking in the snow, Kathie saw her sister Laura wandering around outside like she was sleepwalking. Then, just like Laura had snapped back into reality, she grabbed Kathie's hand and led her back to their friend's house.
She's about 7 years old at this point.
Right.
So it's almost like they're putting up some sort of cloaking device to make this abduction or experience seem like it's just something normal in her existence.
There's a lot of abduction cases where it's almost like people's brains are trying to make sense of what they're seeing, and it's not computing. So they see something familiar, like almost like it's like a trauma thing.
So is it their mind making this up, or is it some sort of invisibility cloak that the aliens are pushing to her
to see something different?
There's two sides of that argument.
Yeah, sure.
There's people that say that it's just how our brain reacts to it in some situations.
Or how her brain remembers it.
Right.
Not necessarily how she viewed it in real time, how she remembers it 30 years later, whatever it is.
If it is a for real disguise, it's fucking creepy.
Oh, yeah, and it punctures the veil real quick there, and she sees what they really look like.
Yeah.
It's like They Live putting the glasses on.
There's a lot of that in this story that we're going to see. A lot of this kind of bending of reality a bit here.
Yeah, like the Benny and Barney Hill stories and some of the other ones seem a lot more, not exactly straightforward, but I don't know how to describe it. So I'll say straightforward, but this one seems different, like mind-bending, kind of.
Well, remember
open to interpretation. And
Betty Andreessen, we did when we covered her. Hers was very vivid. And
Is that the black food?
Yeah, they wanted
burnt the steaks or whatever it was. Yeah.
They're like, no, we wanted knowledge. Like, what are you talking? Why are you giving us this? Like, they started freaking out when the smoke started burning.
Does not compute.
Yeah.
So what she saw when he cut her shin was almost like a typical gray. I think from the photo you showed us earlier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With the sweet turtleneck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like an intellectual gray, not those worker bee grays that were probing Barney, right?
Just came from the coffee shop where he had a poetry reading.
It's like a psychiatrist gray. Right. Smart bug.
This podcast is sponsored by BetterHelp Online Therapy. Relationships can take work, especially the most important one you can have in your life, your relationship with yourself. A lot of us will drop anything to go help someone we care about. We'll go out of our way to treat other people well. But how often do we give ourselves the same treatment? Whether it be exercising, putting down your phone for a while, having a chat with a close friend, or just simply taking a nap, we need to make sure we're taking care of ourselves, just as you would take care of a friend. And with that in mind, this month, BetterHelp Online Therapy wants to remind you that you matter just as much as everyone else does, and therapy is a great way to make sure you show up for yourself. Your mental health should be taken seriously. Nothing can cripple your day or stunt your motivation more than feeling depressed, anxious, or sad. We all have a lot to deal with in our daily lives, be it the struggles of work, keeping food on your table, or even paying the bills. Your mental health is one area that you shouldn't have to worry about. Whether life currently has you down or you're feeling unfulfilled, we're all experiencing our own form of strain on our mental health. And for that, BetterHelp is here for us. BetterHelp is online therapy that offers video, phone, and even live chat sessions with your therapist, so you don't have to see anyone on camera if you don't want to. It's much more affordable than in-person therapy, and you could be matched with a therapist in under 48 hours. This podcast is sponsored by BetterHelp, and Necronomipod listeners get 10% off their first month at betterhelp.com/necro. So give it a try and see why over 2 million people have used BetterHelp Online Therapy. Again, that's BetterHelp, HELP.com/necro. That's BETTERHELP.com/necro. And thanks to BetterHelp for sponsoring today's podcast.
In July of 1975, when Kathie was 16 years old, she went to Rough River State Park with her friend Nan, age 17, Nan's boyfriend Sam, age 17, and Nan's family, consisting of Nan's mother, father, and her brother. All of these people were interviewed and could remember these boys that we're going to talk about. One day on this trip, Kathie was sitting in Nan's father's truck with Nan, her brother, and Sam. His truck had a CB in it, and they were fucking around talking to whoever would answer. All of a sudden, 4 guys came on the radio that said they were in the same age range as Kathie and Nan, and they wanted to hang out with them. Kathie and Nan thought it was funny and told the guys, sure, if you can find us, we'll party with you. But the girls never gave these guys an address or anything like that. Nan's brother and Sam got bored with the CB, and they went inside the cabin. Nan eventually went inside too, while Kathie stayed on the radio talking to this boy who was supposedly in his late teens. Not too long after Nan went inside, Kathie said that she saw lights coming down the road. The road was bumpy, like a rough dirt road, but the lights weren't bouncing around, just slowly moving toward the truck. The lights came to a stop a fair distance from the truck, and the boy on the radio said to Kathie, quote, "I see you." At that point, Kathie got out of the truck, and the 3 teen boys walked up the road and met her halfway. Kathie said, "I thought there were 4 of you," and the boy who she had been talking to, who was very handsome with blonde hair, said the 4th guy didn't want to come. And at that point, Kathie led the 3 boys into the cabin.
You guys ever have a CB radio?
No. Sounds fun, though.
Yeah, they're fun to play with.
I've seen them before and have known people that have had them, but I have not.
Like
you stick around with truckers.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
You've told us before.
have I? Yeah. Okay.
I don't know about it on the show or not, but
I think he has. I don't remember what you used to say.
Well, like my buddy was a truck driver. He moved furniture when I was probably like 20 years old. I went with him on a trip for like 3 weeks.
So when you went to Texas to help someone move in the summer.
It was like 120 in
What
San
a
Antonio.
mistake, pal.
12, 13-hour days moving furniture. Talk about fucking hell on earth.
I would die. That would be the end of my life.
It was fucking. I was thinking about flying home. It was unbelievably brutal. And
just go to lunch and never come back. Like stop at Whataburger, of course, and then come home.
Like my foray into manual labor, I'm like, this is not for me, man. Jesus Christ! But at night, you get to party in the truck stops, and the well, they call them lot lizards, the sex workers that roam.
Definitely told the story before.
But we let the girl sit in the cab of the truck so she could advertise on the CB to other truckers. It's like whoever, I forget what the call is, but like commercial company available or whatever channel. Yeah, a lot of good stuff goes on those CBs. Commercial company.
awesome. I could see you saying some dumb shit to people.
To the truckers?
Yeah.
Oh, I did, yeah. Like if I was in that movie Joyride, like Candy Cane. I would have got smoked. Yeah. It wouldn't have liked me.
I wouldn't be a part of the party if that was me. I'd be in the truck stop, gas station, just eating all the hot dogs. Like, hey, it's midnight. You guys gonna throw these out? Guys, how?
It was wild. A lot of interesting things going on at those truck stops.
At night when it was down to 95 degrees.
That's right.
Tolerable temperatures.
It's a whole different world.
Texas. We've talked about this. Texas in itself is an entirely different world.
Oh, yeah.
So Kathie, along with Nan and Sam, all remembered that it was right around midnight when these three boys came into the cabin. Kathie thought everyone would be asleep, but Nan's parents and everyone were awake. So at that point, she thought, oh, fuck, everyone's going to be mad at me. But the blonde boy who had been talking to Kathie on the CB said something to Nan's parents, and everything was good.
Something like that.
I think that was an exact. How did you find that audio?
I pulled it from the archives.
The blonde boy did all the talking while the other two stood by like, quote, guards, according to Sam. Nan's mother asked the leader, which that seems to be what he ends up being or being referred to, if they wanted something to drink. He asked what she had, and she replied with Coke, beer, or coffee. The boy said whatever they had the most of. Nan's mother said beer, and the boy said that was fine. They would take some beer. However, during the regression and in regular interviews, no one could remember seeing them actually drink anything. They just held on to the drinks the whole time.
In all fairness, every Thursday morning after we're done recording, I never remembered Dave or I actually drinking. So
is that right?
They tell me I had a good time, but
I feel like it. This seems like some sort of weird Men in Black / children of black-eyed children mashup scenario.
It really
going on
does.
there.
Yeah. Which is not bad because that's like the greatest hits of our, paranormal UFO type talk. Like, that's the creepiest stuff.
I'm still waiting for the black-eyed kids to come to my door.
And for that, when it happens, Dave, I won't believe you and I'll call you a crack whore. You want it too bad.
Extremely rude.
Instead, they're going to fucking show up at my door and I'm going to be fucking terrified.
I'll have pictures. I just post on Instagram
I
one
don't
day,
think
like
they're gonna let
selfies
you
with
get
black-eyed
photos.
children, like with my arms around them and stuff.
You think they're just going to be like, yeah, of course, take that photo.
That'd be great. Like their whole eye sockets are black holes. Like, check out these kids stop by last night.
I think we just came onto something, pal. You need to take a photo of like Ian and I, like holding us like we're kids, like around the necks, and then just black out our eyes. Everyone thinks, no, motherfucker, he's wearing like a Stone Cold Steve Austin shirt, and that guy's wearing a Kanye shirt. We know who that is. You're like, no, I swear they came to my door last night. I'm not lying. I don't do crack.
That's great. I don't do crack.
So at this point in the story, Budd Hopkins wanted to know what they all did together, like more details about these three boys. Kathie and everyone else involved said that all three of them had blonde hair and were wearing blue shirts, with the boy that did all the talking being very attractive, but no one could really remember anything about the other two. The boy said that they were in a band and asked Kathie what music she liked. She said rock and roll, and the boy said that that's the kind of band that they were in. He asked her some of her favorite bands, and he told her that they played that kind of music, music that sounded exactly like those bands.
Oh, how convenient.
Yeah, well, what music do you like? Rock and roll? Well, that's what we play. Who are your favorite bands? I like, Hanson and Third Eye Blind and Sister Hazel. That's the exact music we play.
It's very Men in Black sounding because it's the late 70s. So there's a lot of that, like, rock and roll, smoking weed, whatever going on. Yeah. So like, okay, this is how we can fit in.
Yeah.
Music.
Exactly.
What kind of music do you like? That's.
Oh, me too.
You're in luck.
Yeah.
What a quinky ding.
Like every guy ever on his first date with a girl, like, oh, well, what do you like? Oh, me too. That's so cool. I love watching Real Housewives of fucking Iowa City.
Iowa City.
One thing that Budd Hopkins pointed out in the book that led him to believe this, that there was something weird going on here, was that they never gave the name of their band or really said anything else. They just kind of agreed, and then that was it. He was, he's saying like a 17, 18-year-old kid back in the 70s that had a band would definitely say the name and would probably be talking themselves up a lot in front of girls.
Of course.
Yeah.
That's the whole point of being in a band.
Right. Like, oh yeah, we opened for, whoever.
Deep
Aerosmith.
Purple. We opened for Deep Purple.
This is all regression hypnosis, right? She didn't remember this. This wasn't in the original letter.
So
this was all come upon later.
This one is a mixture because Budd Hopkins interviewed Nan and Sam and Nan's mother.
Okay.
Everybody remembered these boys coming to the cabin. They can't remember much else other than what we're talking about now. Everybody agreed on that. Everybody agreed that they asked for beer.
But they didn't need regression, Ted. They just remembered this scenario.
Right. Okay. But there's some missing time here because Bud wanted to know their names. No one could remember these three's names at all. And when Kathie's in regression, I'm pretty sure she says that they never even gave a name at all.
But is that odd? Like, I can remember meeting three girls in the 80s.
I did too. One was my mom.
But I don't necessarily remember their names, I can tell you, I remember meeting those three girls at camp or something.
Even now,
that doesn't seem so
when
odd
I
to
meet
me.
someone for the first time, I will forget their name immediately.
Yeah.
I'm just not good at like those initial introductions.
Yeah, like I can remember a face. Like if I met you 40 years ago, I'll remember your face. I don't necessarily remember your name though.
I've only been alive 36 years, so I can't speak to that. But, maybe. No, I mean, I'm better with faces than names. I'm not going to remember someone's name.
So I don't find that part that
I agree.
unusual or...
Yeah, I would agree about the name.
Yeah.
Everyone said that they felt like these three boys were there for a couple hours, but no one could remember anything that they did or talked about aside from that conversation about music and asking for drinks. So it's that missing time thing again. Everyone's like, I swear we were hanging out for a while, but...
Well, they had all those beers. Happens to me every Saturday night, pal.
You time travel a bit?
Well, I don't know. I mean, in my mind, I'm having a blast. And I wake up the next morning and it's down to earth. And I'm like, oof, what the fuck did I do?
I don't know.
I'm making jokes of it. I don't know. I'm
trying to remember scenarios where, or even if the kids brought friends home in that same sort of scenario, how would you remember that long ago what you talked about or whether someone had a drink? I don't know. Yeah, I don't find that unusual.
Well, when they left, Kathie recalled that the lights floated down the street just as they came in. The only other thing she said was that the boy who was like the leader made her feel very warm and comfortable. She said that, quote, their eyes were the same and the way they smiled at you with them, which is something that is going to get brought up later and is pretty common in the alien abduction stories. People say that the abductors' mouths never move. They smile with their eyes. Like all the communication comes through their eyes.
I feel like this would have been a good video episode we could have done. Like I'm smiling at you right now. Not moving my mouth at all. I'm smiling at you with my eyes.
Moving those eyebrows a lot though, pal. I don't think grays have eyebrows. They have a furrowed brow, perhaps. Now he's just giving us, I'm gonna bang you eyes.
It's like that gif of that little kid, like giving the eyebrows, the eyebrow look. That's what it reminds me of.
The thing that happened in regression about this that leads to the missing time and the alien stuff is when Kathie's talking about the car coming down the road and leaving. She kind of does the same thing with the house in this convenience store we're going to talk about in a bit, where it's like, oh yeah, here, this car is coming down, and this realization starts coming like, that's not a car. Like at one point she says, I want that to be a car. I hope that's a car. And as it gets closer, she's like, that's not really a car. There's something off with that. I think it's again that your brain, if this is all true, either your brain remembering it the way that it wants to protect you from trauma, or it's just how you perceive it at the time.
It's interesting the bumpy road that the headlights didn't move at all. Like I thought the most interesting part of this. And also, if this was aliens kind of changing your reality to suit the scenario, the fact that everyone remembers it kind of the same way is interesting.
It would lead to
they changed everyone's perception at the same time.
Right. I guess it's not the same thing as Betty and Dreesen. Betty and Dreesen's whole family was there, and it was like how she said it was like they all got switched off. they all were just like frozen. And when they woke up, they were like, we don't know what the fuck happened. The power went out and now we're missing all this time.
Like, did the Nan and these other people in the house kind of get switched off and they remember this happening, but they were out for several hours while whatever was taking place with Kathie?
Possibly.
Yeah. These stories are freaky.
I mean, at face value, it's a fucking creepy thing because like in the book, when Nan's interviewed, she says that looking back on it, it's very confusing because she's like, we're fucking around the CB radio. We don't know where these guys are. We're just talking. And here a half hour later, they just show up.
Yeah.
They never told them where we were or anything like that. And all of a sudden they pull up and they're like, we see you.
Like they didn't have GPS or,
Right.
you know.
Yeah.
You're not pinning your location
Right.
sending it to them.
Although a CB only has a certain radius, so
Oh, okay.
you had to be in
But
at least a
still,
specific area. That's not a, you know.
Well, it's not like a cell phone call that can be from anywhere. But even in a specific area to show right up where they're at is a little creepy.
Yeah, a little bit.
I didn't know that.
I don't know what the range is, but it's not.
Like you
know.
can't talk to California on a
Yeah,
CB
it's
radio.
not 50 miles
Okay.
away. It's you're somewhere in that area, I think. Because I haven't thought about CBs in a long time.
But they were still using that technology better than Ian did when he walks home drunk from neighbors' houses.
Yeah, 1978. Yeah.
Yeah, they were still getting around better and finding things,
Yep.
you know, from people you shared a backyard with.
people you shared a backyard with. Meaning, presumably, he could have went over the fence and been home.
You know, I'm wondering, did you lose any time that night?
I don't know.
Maybe they put you at that major intersection by a stoplight.
I don't remember getting there, but I do remember calling you.
You did call me.
CB radios have a range of about 3 miles.
So then that's a little different.
Oh, 3 miles to 20 miles. Sorry. Depending on terrain.
And this was also in 1978, so maybe technology with CB radios wasn't as great back then as it is to, you know.
Interesting.
No, I don't.
You know,
when
between two base stations, you could have a range of about 20 miles. A well-installed system should provide about a 15-mile or more range. But you're talking about a car, CB,
Yeah.
Right.
substantially less than that, probably.
When I was a child, one of the first jobs I wanted to have was a truck driver.
Yeah.
I thought that was a cool gig.
That's pretty cool.
The end, but that's all.
Oh, okay. Sure.
Somewhere in between wanting to be a pro wrestler and, you know, whatever else I wanted to be as a kid.
Yeah.
Truck driver.
It's the lifeline of this country. Makes everything move. Your store shelves would be empty in 3 days with no truck drivers.
I mean, would it not be kind of cool? Although I had a teacher.
If the shelves were empty?
No, to be a truck driver. Oh, of course that would not be cool. I had a teacher.
If you have a gun, you steal everyone else's stuff.
In 6th grade whose dad was a truck driver. And I don't know why I remember this, but she told us that he had actually lost his hearing from driving trucks his whole life.
Why that?
All the sound, just the loud noise of the engines and stuff.
Really?
And that at least that's what they had said at the time, you know, that it had damaged his hearing to the point where he could barely hear anymore.
I've never heard of such a thing.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Maybe that's when I got turned off to
The
that
idea.
was 6th grade. By then I was
Couldn't listen to Kiss anymore if you went deaf. You're like, fuck this.
Yeah, what are you gonna do? You got to listen to something in that ride, right? You can't listen to Necronomicon forever.
I think it seems like a hard job to me. I don't know that I would love it.
I'm not saying it's easy. I just, you know, it's like life on the road.
Yeah.
But I don't know, to have one of those big rigs with like the little cabin in the back to sleep in, gas station food all the time, sounds fucking phenomenal.
No, just no.
I love that life, man. Glory holes, come on.
At the truck stop, lot lizards every night of the week.
I think you're talking yourself into it, pal. Go get one of those fucking buffalo chicken rollers that are so goddamn good. Have you had one of those yet from Speedway?
No, I've never eaten anything from Speedway.
I'm going to get you one.
No, we're not eating that shit
You
that
know
you
how
put
they
in your
have, like,
body.
like the taquitos.
Disgusting.
Yeah.
Now they got actual just chicken rollers. And it's just like a processed buffalo chicken roller.
No one should eat that food. That's not good. Don't eat that shit. Don't listen to Mike Namapod.
I eat it.
Garbage.
It's so good.
Anyway, hats off to truckers. Lifeblood of this country.
Kathie had two more experiences relatively close together, one in December 1977 and March 1978. Both of these happened in Indianapolis. The first one, Kathie was with her friends, Dorothy and Roberta. The girl saw a light darting back and forth through the sky, and after a while of watching it, Dorothy pulled off to the side of the road to get a better look. At that point, Roberta started crying and getting really upset, and then everything stopped. The next thing anyone remembered, a little over an hour had passed and they were back driving. And the details of this came out under hypnosis. This one is like a classic alien abduction, the examination, all that stuff. So the way that Kathie remembers this is that Dorothy and Roberta were pretty much turned off, like Betty and Dreesen, like time just stopped for them. Kathie, under hypnosis, said that she could feel a lot of pressure down by her bladder and her legs were being pulled.
No, go ahead. Can I pee real quick?
So speaking of bladder pressure,
I live my life feeling pressure by my bladder. I have no sympathy for her.
Then she said she felt her legs being spread, that it was really uncomfortable, and that she specifically said it felt like she was being pulled apart by a magnet.
That's a little disconcerting, right? Being pulled apart by a magnet. And were their names Dorothy and Roberta?
Yeah.
Kind of maybe in suspended animation state while this is going on?
Right, just like Betty and Dreesen.
Mm-hmm.
And in every experience like this, there's always what you would consider your typical gray alien. She always calls him a man, in that he always makes her feel comforted with his eyes. Same thing as like the boys before. Yeah, what you're doing there?
Smiling with my eyes. Some of a good video podcast episode. But I don't know.
You're doing like your Bernie Mac crazy eyes type bit.
Bernie Mac was awesome.
He's hilarious.
What we're getting to here, because there's also like a needle. There's a needle that's inserted into her belly button, things like that. What this is aiming towards is that there's some type of genetic experiments going on here. We're going to be getting into the realm of alien-human hybrids.
Which, if we're looking at some government documents that were released in yesterday that we just saw, that might not be beyond the realm of possibility.
I mean, the way that Budd Hopkins does it, and we'll talk about it in part 2, and almost everybody, it's when you put all these cases together, whether you believe them all or not, there's always that running theme of they're real interested in how we reproduce.
Yeah.
Always very interested in that. Like I said, that's what we're getting to here, is that something is being done to her. Yeah. Sexually, like reproductive. In the one in 1978, she had the same experience with the gray being, which she calls a man, staring down at her, making her feel at ease. But this time something was removed. She still said she felt like she was being pulled apart by a magnet, all that stuff, but that she could tell something was removed at this point.
Like a fetus, perhaps.
It's leaning that way.
She's like an incubation chamber for their hybrid experiments.
That's what a lot of this ends up pointing to.
This is getting borderline paranormal erotica that we cover on patreon.com/Necronomipod.
Well, every episode we've done on alien abductions, it always goes back to that stuff. Betty Hill, they put the needle in her belly button. Barney Hill, they got a semen sample somehow. He's never really specific about how that happened.
I wouldn't be either. The whole needle in a belly button thing, like, is just so, it gags me. It grosses me out.
I remember Betty's specifically because it made me queasy feeling. She talks about how long it is, and it went in, and she said that the being calmed her with his eyes. Like, he looked at her and was like, and all of a sudden she said she felt like, okay, I'm good. But then, like, Betty and Dreesen, when she was abducted and they were doing the examination, it was like they were real confused when they got to that part of her body. Said in her
she had a hysterectomy, right?
Yeah, she was like, but I had a hysterectomy. Like, they were real fucked up.
They didn't know what to do.
Yeah, they were like, wait, what?
Between that and the smoke, like, she fucked with them. Yeah, she accidentally like threw them for a loop.
Yeah, they were real thrown off.
It's interesting that Barney never exactly said how that happened.
When they were, sober, Betty never told them what to say.
Oh, boy. Like, we know he had a
60-time explosion.
Where'd that one come from?
We just don't know how it happened.
Oh, man. That's one of the old school ones, isn't it? The old Borat.
60-time explosion.
I want to watch that show.
In the summer of 1979, while Kathie was pregnant with her son Robbie, Kathie was abducted from an apartment she was living in Indianapolis. She had the same experience as the other abductions, lying on a table and being examined. However, this time a thin wire with a small ball on the end was put up into each of her nostrils. When she returned to her bed, she again said that she felt comforted and at peace, which was due to this man smiling at her with his eyes.
Wish we had that camera up there. We're doing a lot of smiling up in the eyes smiling into the camera.
Just post a creepy video on your Instagram of you just looking into the camera, smiling with your eyes.
Kathie said that she was then shown a small black box. Like, she's back in her bed with this being looking at her, and she was shown a small black box, and she was told that she would remember what it was for in the future. It's one of the things that to me is very credible in these stories is when people are confused by what they see and they can't really figure it out. Like, I would assume somebody making up a story would be like, and then this alien came in. And, but when they try to say it like he's an odd looking man,
they're not quite sure what happened.
Right. Or like the car thing. It's a car was coming down the road, but it's not really like a car. There's something off about it.
If they were kind of...
It makes it look less attention seeking because you're not saying like, oh, I saw this spaceship or UFO. And not saying that everyone who sees that is attention seeking. But I agree, it gives more credibility. Like, you're almost more of a realist. Like, I saw this, but I don't know what to make of it.
If they had an agenda, they'd be a little more specific and forceful in trying to convince you about, like you said, like it was an alien.
In the theme of this book, and Budd Hopkins' first one, Missing Time, the people that he focused on were all trying to disprove what was going on. Like, they didn't want to believe that this stuff was going on, but they wanted to get to the root of it and kind of disprove or just figure it out and kind of like, okay, well, there's an explanation for it.
Yeah.
In 1980, Kathie got pregnant again, this time with her son, Tommy. During this pregnancy, every Wednesday for 9 months, Kathie would receive a phone call. On the other end of this call was what I took to sound like the internet dial-up sound from the 90s.
So kind of like this.
Yep.
This is 10-year-old Mike getting home from school, cracking open a Mountain Dew, logging on to AOL to check out the latest wrestling rumors. Maybe send some instant messages to my friends.
Then my grandma starts button mashing the telephone and knock me off the internet.
Who's on the phone? Boy.
God damn it, I was just about to read a spoiler of what Shawn Michaels' trunks were going to look like this weekend.
Dude, that was the first thing I did when I got on the internet. I specifically remember my first time in the internet. I went to WWE's website and I was just looking at pictures of wrestlers. I'm like, this is fucking crazy.
I'm sitting at my computer, I'm looking at wrestling.
Like, my dad had one really early on. Like, he had it like right when shit came out. I was like, oh, this is fucking wild. Thinking back on it now, I look like shit.
Like, nah, I could beat off on my computer and set my TV. I don't have to wait for Monday nights to get off.
God, I had a TI-94, Commodore 64 back in the 80s on, bulletin boards and all that fucking crazy stuff.
What did those sound like, Dave?
Well, you know what they sounded like.
No. I don't.
It was just the same modem sound, but it was substantially less quick.
Oh, so the same thing, just...
Oh, yeah, like 300 baud modem versus the 56K you guys were jumped online.
Spoiled brats growing up in the 90s. Do you remember the first email you sent? I do not remember mine.
God, no. Oh.
I remember signing up for like a Yahoo, maybe a Lycos email, something. And I remember getting in the chat and just fucking trolling people. I would do that a lot.
That's unbelievable.
In school, they made us all sign up for Hotmail accounts.
Yeah.
And what happened to Hotmail? Like, you still see someone with a Hotmail account, you're like, oh, That's an old person, probably.
Microsoft just shut that domain down, didn't they?
I don't know.
Recently, or it's coming up.
So was that owned by Microsoft?
They bought it eventually.
They bought it and they shut it down.
Is Lyco still available? Is that?
I
still
don't
out there?
know.
That's wild. If it
You
is,
still use Ask Jeeves for your search engine?
Jesus. No, you know what I do? I type it in just the search bar at the top, and then whatever comes up, comes up. I don't fucking know how that works.
Like, I wonder what Ask Jeeves has to say about that.
I'm not going to type in a website just to type in something else. I'm not a fucking imbecile. Yes, Jeeves.
Imagine if that was the like Ask Jeeves won the war and beat out Google, and everything was Ask Jeeves now. That'd be awesome.
Didn't you have to phrase it in a question or no?
Like
Am
it
I
was
just making-
Jeopardy?
But like, because it was Ask Jeeves, so it was like.
I don't think
what?
you had to.
I don't think so.
Is that what you were doing?
No, I don't know. Ask Jeeves was like when I literally was first using a computer.
What, if anything, is wrong to jerking off to Shawn Michaels tights? Ask Jeeves.
Yeah. I'm sorry, is that a question?
Well, Michael,
nothing
let
wrong
me.
with that.
Where do I start?
I don't know. I don't remember what Ask Jeeves. Like I know of Ask Jeeves, but I don't think I ever used it. It was like before even my time.
I don't think anyone did.
Yeah,
Maybe
like
they did. I don't know.
I've never met someone who that brought up Ask Jeeves like it was their main shit.
Still,
My first memory of using a computer was playing Oregon Trail.
that was fun.
That was my first memory of a computer. And then I died of dysentery, and then I was like, fuck this, I'm going home. I'll go play with my wrestling figures.
Yeah, that was for sure my first one. Yeah. My first internet one though was WWE, and then I was looking up some alien shit too.
Of course.
Yeah, nothing has changed.
Yeah. Ask Jeeves was rebranded to Ask.com in 2005.
And still no one used it. Who the fuck goes to Ask.com?
Ask.com ended its foray into search engineering in 2010.
Yeah, okay. Well, they made it till 2010 then.
Pour one out for Ask Jeeves.
Now, Ask.com, I've been to a few times.
Have you? Anything good there?
I don't know, but I bet if you search it, something fun's going to come up.
So that 90s sound, the modem sound was what she would hear every Wednesday for 9 months while she was pregnant. Behind all that sound was a voice that just kept talking without ever pausing. Like when Kathie or someone else who answered the phone would say, hello, who is this? Stuff like that. The voice never stopped to acknowledge them. No one could ever make out any words or what exactly the voice was saying. But Kathie and her family members said that at times they could sense that the voice was angry, sad, or just sometimes kind of blah. And really fucking creepy is that she was pregnant with her son Tommy at this time. Fast forward to Tommy being like 3 years old. He had a real issue with talking. And she said, and her mother and her father said that the way Tommy tried to talk at 3 years old sounded a lot like the voice on the phone calls.
Yikes.
Like this jumbled speech that you can't make out.
That's really weird.
But this one was all like electronic and had the sounds.
Didn't John Keel get a lot of weird calls like that too? That same kind of deal? Mm-hmm. John Keel that wrote the Mothman Prophecies book?
Yep. Indrid Cold. There was a lot of phone calls going on with that.
Oh, there was party lines back then. Maybe that's just their neighbor was on the phone.
You know what was weird? In this book, they bring up Budd Hopkins is like, and we ruled out any kind of sexual person, calling the house. And then in John Keel's book, Mothman Prophecies, he also talks about ruling out, he calls him like the sexual deviant or something, making phone calls. Like, is that a big issue back in the 70s and 80s? Like dudes,
The heavy breather?
yeah, like dudes calling women like that.
Yeah, nothing else to do, right?
So you're just gonna sexually harass
Get
women
on
on
Ask
the
Jeeves
phone.
and look up boobies. So what are you supposed to do?
I just found it odd that two separate books pointed out that these weren't like sex offenders calling people.
What are you wearing?
It's weird growing up in this age where it's like I remember dial-up phones. I had them,
Yeah.
but I wasn't like, I don't know, my childhood wasn't like crank calls and stuff like that. Like,
Oh, I was do a lot of crank calls. What are you talking
no,
about?
I never did any of that.
Oh, yeah. I love doing that.
Oh yeah, like I think like 7th or 8th grade.
Oh, yeah.
we called our fucking
By
gym
then we
coach
had, by
from
then
school.
we had AOL. Like, I was online.
I got in trouble in grade school. I ordered my teacher a Smurfs record and had it sent to his house. You could call, like 1-800 or whatever, and you could have anything shipped COD. Yeah. So it gets there and like it's cash on demand when they deliver it. Smurfs record.
Smurfs record. What?
Like, that's pretty funny.
Well, you're just sitting there one night, like, eating chips, watching TV, and they're like, oh, buy this Smurfs record. And you're like, I'm going to send that to my teacher.
Yeah, pretty much. Like a lot of tomfoolery was based around telephones when I was a kid. Yeah, like that's where a lot of the phone hacking and all that stuff started with that. What is that blue box that all those guys like hacking the phone company stuff, and that was cool, innovative, stuff back then. Hacking the phone company, man, sticking it to the man, making free phone calls.
I guess I never just got the humor in crank calls. It's just not my thing.
I have a whole videotape of me calling local. We talked about this, like calling local news people and crank calls and everything. You're like that big dog guy, the Cleveland Browns big dog guy. He was he was being interviewed on the news when the Browns were leaving in '99. And Art Modell was the
99. You're a full grown man.
Was that 99 when the Browns left?
Well, 90, I think 95.
Whenever they left Cleveland,
they came back in 99.
Yeah, he was on the news, and they took phone calls back then all the time. I called and asked him if he would blow Art Modell to keep the Browns in town, and he just blushed. He never said no, so I assumed the answer was yes. But
fair question.
Yeah, I got tons of videotapes of all those phony phone calls. I got to find them one of these days. They could call the local news person, and they had no delay or anything. Like, I asked the girl at the news, what's under her panties, and she just put her face down on the desk. They cut the audio feed. Like, I disrupted the whole newscast. It was fantastic.
Oh my God.
In all fairness, I would be down to do that today still. So.
Oh, there's nothing better than phony phone calls.
Yeah, I would call someone right now.
There's a lot funnier than phony phone calls.
Omar Vizquel, award-winning shortstop for the Cleveland Indians, was being interviewed by a local news person. I called and I asked her what's under her panties, and Omar Vizquel goes, "What's under my panties?"
I think you have told that.
It's good stuff, man. A lot of good material back in the old days. I could have started Crank Anchors way before Jim Florentine.
There you go.
I was an original OG.
I forgot about that show.
On the prank phone calls.
So in the timeline, that brings us to June 30th, 1983, which was the incident that Kathie wrote to Budd Hopkins about. After Kathie went out with her father's 22 to the pool house and found her dog, she all of a sudden was missing 2 hours of time. Like we said in her initial letter, she went back to her friend's house, and then they went back to Kathie's to swim. Her friend Deanne said that she was close to calling the police because Kathie was gone for so long and Deanne couldn't get a hold of her. After checking the pool house, Kathie walked to the door, and as she walked out, she said she was hit by a bright light and it made her skin burn. She compared it to what she would imagine as being struck by lightning would feel like. This was Kathie's account of that evening.
It felt as if I had first been punched by a huge electric fist right in the gut. The burning electrical feeling slowly moved down my legs to my feet, out my arms, to my fingertips, and around my head. Then I could feel every molecule of my body vibrating. I couldn't move, and I couldn't see because the flash was so bright. I knew I could not have tolerated more than a few seconds of this, but I swear it felt as if this lasted for several minutes. I assumed it couldn't have lasted more than a few seconds. I remember thinking, I'm dead. This is what it feels like to die. I was shaking and burning, and I felt like I was vibrating to my very core. The brightness wore off fast. Then the vibrating and shaking subsided, but I still couldn't move. I was able to see bits and pieces, very much like having been flashed in the eye by a camera flash. I had big blind spots in my vision, but I could see some shadow and some movement in the yard in front of me. I can now feel someone pulling on my right shoulder as if to pull me down a bit. Then I felt a stabbing, burning sensation in my right ear, and I could hear someone telling me it was unfortunate that I had to feel pain. Then I was outside the pedestrian doorway, but I didn't know how I got there. I could see a soft white ball of light directly in front of me. It was about the size of a basketball and is hovering about as high as I am, about 5 foot, 3.5 inches tall. The light slowly moved up and down as if it were looking at me from head to toe. Then it moved into an egg-shaped thing and disappeared.
Hey, I didn't know Epstein's dick was in this episode. Is this a mashup episode there?
Just floating in front of your face. Just to the left of the light, I could see something about the size of the pool pump house, maybe 8 to 10 feet tall and shaped like an egg. Not very big as far as a UFO goes. And I could see 6 people in the yard in front of me. They were at various spots in the yard. At the same time, they all seemed to line up and slide to the left, back to this egg-shaped thing in front of me. They were smaller than me, shorter. I thought they looked like children. Bullet-shaped children. Bigger in the head and getting narrower at the feet. I couldn't see much detail, mostly just silhouettes.
Bullet-shaped children. That's an interesting description.
That's the name of my band.
Is that right? Bullet-shaped children?
Yep, right.
Like Britney Spears cover band?
We do some Britney.
Okay.
Yeah, mostly focus on like Mandy Moore, Jessica Simpson, their early days.
Mandy Moore.
The classics.
Little
in other
Christina
words.
Aguilera before she went dirty and got all,
Understood.
provocative. That's not
Right.
for me. I'm a religious man. The rest of this event is still a blur after 20 years. The next thing I remember is hearing someone say, "It's over." I suddenly remembered my kids. I thought, my kids, oh my God. And immediately I heard a voice say that my kids were okay. I heard my name being called and I was able to move, and I turned and began to walk up the lower porch steps toward the back kitchen door. With each step I took, the memory of what had just transpired faded until by the time I reached my mom at the back door, I did not remember anything after I entered the garage. I said to my mom, "Everything's cool." And with that, she became animated again. It was as if she was standing there in a daze until she heard my voice.
Fucking freaky, man. Time stand still stuff going on.
Yeah.
It's just terrifying to think that someone has that ability to do that to you, Like you're not really in control of your surroundings. You're just subject to the whim of an alien or foreign invader or whatever this is,
It just takes over, freezes the moment or whatever, and anyone around you.
And if it's all true, it could happen to a ton more people. Like, what if whatever they use to make people forget, amnesia, it just kind of didn't work on these people, but maybe it works really good on everybody else.
And that's not out of the question. I mean, some people go into surgery and remember they're not completely out. So yeah, there's precedence for that.
Right. Like, what if this happens on a really large scale and you just don't know?
Now you're scaring me. Maybe that's what weird dreams are. Like, I hate dreaming. If I could flip a switch and never have another dream again, I would love it.
I like dreaming.
Hate it.
I like it.
I had dreams all night last night.
Really?
Fucking weird shit. I don't like it. I feel like I've been up doing shit all night, not sleeping. I don't like it. I
It's
don't want
not good
it.
when you feel exhausted the next day.
Like, my mind's tired because of all the shit that was going on the night before. Like, I don't want it. I just want to turn off and sleep.
I never remember my dreams. If I do, I have a reoccurring dream that happens. It's really a bad dream. It takes me a minute to wake up and like get out of it.
Yeah.
Other than that, I don't remember my dreams ever, which is good.
I
like
remember hazy details, like a broad landscape of what was going on, but nothing.
Yeah, that's usually typical, right? Like, yeah.
But I feel like I was doing something all night. Maybe that's what dreams are. Like, who knows? Like, when you're getting
You
into
don't like to do anything in the day, let alone at night when you're trying to sleep.
I just turn me off, man. Stop giving me dreams. I don't want to think at night. But I mean, when we're getting into realms like this, who knows? Maybe that's what dreams are.
Yeah.
You know?
You talked about that thing earlier today, that UFO report, which as soon as that comes out, I'm sure we're going to do a bonus episode on all that whenever that comes out in full.
Like, there's a lot to unpack in that report.
Yeah, but there's that one. There's this line here about, it's like a classification system, but there's this line, a flyby where the witness experienced a transformation of reality into the object or its occupants. What does that mean exactly, into the occupants?
I don't know, man. Like, you're seeing first person as them on some sort of ship,
I don't know.
experiencing it like that.
And then you're getting into the realm of J. Allen Hynek and Jacques Vallée in their book, Edge of Reality, where they're putting forth the idea that somewhere in here, there's a technology that we're not familiar with. And it's something that is a mixture of physical and psychic, that there's a mix here, that somehow it's bending the reality of the person experiencing this. And then if there happens to be other people around, then they can affect everyone's reality.
Which makes sense why we don't understand any of this.
Because it's always the
grasp this.
Yeah, and that's always the argument too, is that it's like, well, if someone was abducted by a UFO, wouldn't you see them just floating out of their fucking house or whatever? I don't think their actual body maybe doesn't even physically go anywhere. Maybe it's all,
or maybe that
psychic.
Invisibility cloak is up and you wouldn't see it anyway, because that's not what they're projecting you to see at that moment.
Like I feel like these experiences are for that person only, and you're just not going to see it.
Yeah.
Because reality is different for everyone.
That seems to be what we're talking about. You still want to have that?
That experience?
Yeah.
No, not like this.
Yeah. That's terrifying.
I haven't from the beginning, so no.
I would like to see a really cool UFO.
Yeah.
But
from a distance.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be
from
all right.
a distance. Yeah.
There's stuff we're going to get into next week with this episode. Like, we still have a whole other encounter to get into tonight, but next week we're going to get into some stuff that it sounds like this family is being haunted by a ghost. Like, their house is fucking haunted, but it's not. It's a whole abduction phenomena happening.
I mean, so it's entirely possible that, things like hauntings and ghosts are all, like, this is all the same thing.
Yeah, I've had listeners message me on Instagram and stuff, and like, well, if you don't believe in ghosts, how do you explain this? And I never said I don't believe in ghosts. I'm just saying that I don't think that someone is going to die and their spirit is going to haunt everything.
The traditional explanation of what a ghost is.
Right. I think aliens or ghosts or demons or angels, it's all the same.
I think that probably makes sense. Yeah.
Or ghosts don't exist, but aliens figured out how to make you leave your body because they have technology that we don't, like you talked about earlier.
Yeah. It's just different interpretations of the same thing.
We perceive
Seems
that as
likely.
meaning like, oh, your soul or your ghost is leaving your body. Oh, maybe they figured out a way to extract part of you from you, get you off like they did Barney Hill and send you back.
Like sexy time explosion.
Like, when you're talking about not understanding this stuff, like that our brains can't understand it, just talking to the next dimension, the fourth dimension, right? If you put a cube in the fourth dimension, it turns into a tesseract. And you can see that image on a computer. You can look up what would a cube look like in a fourth dimension. You can see a picture of a tesseract and what it would look like, but you're still not really seeing a tesseract. You're looking at it on a 2D screen. We can't comprehend what a tesseract would actually look like in front of our face because we can't see it.
Right.
I think that's a lot of what we're talking about here, that we just can't understand it.
Well, take someone that lived, 3,000-4,000 years ago and place them in our time. What does this world look like to them? They wouldn't be able to understand that.
Yeah, like if you showed them a smartphone.
Yeah.
You show them this room. There are lights on. Yeah. There are computers.
Or an
there is this thing.
Right. Or an airplane. Or
they would recognize like drinks in our glass.
Yeah.
Like,
or a
that's how
television. And you extrapolate that out, us in that same scenario with something or some race thousands of years in the future. Is it really that much of a stretch that we can't understand what
I don't
takes
think it's a
place
stretch at all.
sometimes? No.
Look, we're pretty dumb as a society. Relatively speaking, I feel like we're pretty dumb.
No, we're not the best.
We could be better.
We could be better.
Look, we all get annoyed when our iPhones have new Apple updates because we're like, oh, I gotta learn this. We don't want to do that. Like, we just want what we know, and that's it.
I'm very guilty of that. I don't like change.
No. Like, I gotta learn
hate
something
change.
new. Like, you're changing my iPhone.
I was happy with my BlackBerry, to be honest.
I never had a BlackBerry, actually, but they looked cooler. Like, you had that little,
They were great.
It looked important.
I loved it.
that little ball that you scroll with.
That's right.
What it was.
Always worked.
So Kathie's next abduction experience happened on October 3rd, 1983. And it goes along this whole line of just this really interesting thing, like with the three boys. in this concept that we've been talking about all night of what people comprehend or what happens when they look at something that they don't understand or that scares them. Kathie arrived home from the grocery store that night, but she suddenly felt this urgent thirst for Diet Pepsi, and there was none in the house. She felt like she had to drive to 7-Eleven to get a drink, even though that there were other drinks in the house. Like when she's looking back on this, she's like, I don't know why I would leave again. I just got home, but I'm going to turn around and leave again.
Yeah, going out at night to get Diet Pepsi is the most absurd thing I've heard in the story so far, because that's one of the most disgusting things I've ever tasted.
Diet Pop in general, I think, is grotesque. I know you're a Diet Coke fan, but I would not.
Diet Coke might be the best tasting thing on the planet Earth.
I would just
Diet Pepsi.
Soon not drink anything before a diet soda in general.
All I drink is Diet.
Yeah.
Diet Coke.
No good.
Diet Mountain Dew.
I love Diet Coke more than I can even explain to you.
I'm glad you enjoy it. I mean, if you're going to 7-Eleven, at least get a hot dog, though. There's a dynamite there. There's been way too much gas station talk tonight.
Yeah, by you, not by us.
You brought it up first with the truckers and all that garbage. And then, of course, when you're talking about truck stops.
I said I was at a truck stop. I didn't bring up any fucking
But if we
food.
talk about a truck stop, what else are you supposed to talk about? The only good thing at a truck stop is the gas station food. Certainly not the glory holes.
Well,
I put that hot dog in my glory hole.
That's
it's called my
debatable.
mouth. And it is glorious.
It's a gross misrepresentation of what a glory hole is.
So when she got into the car to go get her Diet Pepsi, she was having a hard time getting it to start. The only way to get it to start was to turn on the interior lights first, then start the ignition. She leaves the house at 11:45 and starts the 20-minute drive to the convenience store. As she's driving, she notices a low-moving object in the sky. She tells herself that it's the Goodyear blimp that her friend Wilma saw earlier in the day. She keeps watching this blimp as she's driving and notices lights along the bottom, which she thought would be the letterboard on the blimp.
I read that it said Ice Cube's a pimp. Is that accurate or no?
Yeah, it is.
Okay, great.
She noticed it's almost rolling instead of gliding like a blimp would, and that it was very low to the ground. When she got to 7-Eleven, Kathie goes inside and sees the cashier, who she immediately feels strange about. This isn't the usual cashier, and the convenience store started to not look right either. She said all she could remember was that the store was lit up and had big windows. One minute she's inside the convenience store, the next she's outside in the parking lot with this strange man. She recognizes him for a moment as the gray smiling man. Next thing she knows, she's driving home again, but taking a route she usually doesn't take. When she got home, everyone was asleep. She checked the time, and it was about 20-1. At that point, she's feeling cold and tingly all over, and Kathie realized that she never bought a drink that she went for, but she doesn't feel thirsty anymore. She starts getting really nervous, where she feels that something else is going to happen. She's feeling very uneasy about the windows in the house, and she doesn't want to look out them. She's in her bedroom with the TV on, trying to relax, and this uneasy feeling is going on to no avail. She decides to go downstairs to call her friend Sally in New York, but she's scared to walk past any windows. While she's downstairs, she noticed out of the corner of her eye a light next to the chandelier, but when she looked over, it was gone. After her call, she went back upstairs to take something to try and get some sleep. She's standing in the hallway and notices a small ball of light in the hallway, which she tries to convince herself is lightning. But then under hypnosis, as soon as she says, I think that's lightning, and then she goes, but why would there be lightning inside the house?
It's like a simulation or something. It's very strange.
It almost reminds me of like the craziness of the dream that Tom Hanks has in The Burbs. When he's walking on those steps, like the chainsaw comes through the door.
Yeah.
And then he's standing by the fireplace and the smoke starts coming at his feet.
It's very odd. So all this was discovered during hypnotic regression.
Right. What she could remember outside was that, I wanted this Pepsi, and then I got in the car. I asked my dad if he wanted anything. He was watching TV, got back in my car. Next thing I know, I'm back at home. An hour has passed.
And no Pepsi.
No Pepsi, and it should have taken me 15 minutes to get there and back.
So it's almost like they grabbed her right outside the door and kind of simulated that she went to the store and did all this during this time.
Or led her to that spot.
Yeah.
Because the convenience store is obviously not really the store. It's the UFO. She's just seeing it.
Sure.
Or her brain is registering it as a convenience store.
It's almost like they're like, come see these raccoons. Come visit these raccoons. And you show up. And then you get home and you're like, why did I go to see those raccoons at a Speedway gas station?
Non-smoker Ian doesn't see those raccoons anymore.
Aliens would have to figure out another way to get me out of my house.
My fault for that raccoon trick anymore, you stupid aliens.
They reprogram. Oh, look, we're at the weed store instead.
He's like, I'll see you in 20 minutes. You sons of bitches. You got me.
So she decided to go to her son Tommy's room and carry him into her bedroom and to sleep there, feeling that maybe having him next to her will kind of ease her, help her go to sleep. As she's laying next to him, she starts hearing a noise, a humming sound that Tommy seems not to hear. She's feeling cold all over and tingling all over her body. As she feels that, she then fades into sleep. Her next memory is of pressure in her chest, as if hands were touching her chest right under her breasts.
But you can't do that, Mike. Underneath the breast. You don't have that move.
That's, that's a thing. I'm going to have to learn that one, I think.
She then recalls the feeling of having a collar around her neck and being on her stomach.
Oh, maybe you can't do that. Never mind.
Well, come on. Although I like to be the one on the collar on my stomach.
Then the feeling of pressure in her sinuses. She remembers opening her eyes at this point and seeing the face of the gray man in an all-white room. Because that's the thing is, when she's under this regression, a lot of these, when we were talking earlier about feeling like she was being pulled apart by a magnet and stuff, she has her eyes closed. Like in her regression, she's like, I'm scared, I'm not opening my eyes. And then anytime that she does, she sees the gray, the alien, which she calls a man. And again, his eyes are smiling, but the small slit of a mouth isn't moving. But yeah, exactly.
I surely hope you post this on Instagram. I want people to see Dave's fucking smile eyes.
And that comforts her.
It's going to get reported so many times. I opened my Instagram and I was violated by this man looking at me.
Then out of nowhere, she feels warm all over and recalled waking up outside in her backyard in her nightgown, confused as to how she ended up outside. And then she went back inside to where Tommy was asleep in her bed, and she went to sleep. And that's where we'll pick back up on part 2.
No, just no. That's really scary to me.
This whole story is very scary.
I agree.
Wait till next week, man. There is a part that made me very, it scared me reading the book. I was like, fuck, I don't like that at all.
I'm going to have dreams about this tonight now, and I'm not going to like it.
Maybe they're dreams. Maybe they're actually happening.
Oh, my God.
Now he's not going to sleep.
Jesus fucking
Now he's
Christ.
not sleeping.
Like when I saw that thing today, that about the Pentagon reports that came out, and they're not all out. But as soon as I saw that bit about unplanned pregnancies or like mysterious pregnancies being linked, it kind of blew my fucking mind for a second, because I'm like, I've been looking into this stuff for so long, and then to actually see that the government, like the defense,
finally
is like actually acknowledging that, even the idea of that is fucking crazy. Because then that opens up the whole door of, okay, if they're taking that aspect of this serious, it's this, well, what are we talking about now?
Yeah.
If it's really real.
I saw Rogan tweeted that today and said, I'm pregnant.
Thanks, Joe.
Good one.
Like there's this documentary on Netflix, or not Netflix, I'm sorry, on Amazon. It's a newer one about alien human hybrids. You watch that and you're like, man, it's easy. It's even for me, it's easy to be like, these people they're making this up. Like this is so fucking crazy.
Is it though?
Maybe it's not.
Maybe it's not.
Because there's a
Maybe we're the fools for just thinking they're all fools.
Well, I don't think
Laughing
they're
at
fools.
them. Well, I certainly do.
Yeah,
maybe
you
fool.
accuse them of drug abuse and things.
Oh, one person, and there's a lot of validity to that. We'll get into it next time we discuss that story.
I find this highly credible.
This one alone, I wasn't giving my take just on this specific one. I
Oh,
was just talking
apologies.
in general when I hear like, oh, alien was abducted, and I'm like, all right, hillbilly.
Well,
I'll see you at Talladega next weekend.
You believe the fire in the sky story?
I absolutely do.
It's no different than this.
There's a lot more to this one, which makes it a little more difficult to break down. I don't have an opinion on this one yet.
Okay. Well, wait till next week when we're done. But it's like a lifelong, once you're a subject of us, you're always going to be a subject of us. And we'll kind of experiment and visit you whenever we feel like it.
Which is different than what we've covered in the past, right? Like we had not really touched on one like this.
Yeah, the ones we've done so far are one-offs.
And I feel like the one-offs, it's very easy to it's hit or miss. Like, fire in the sky. Yeah, we all believe that. Gulf breeze, get the fuck out of here.
Betty and Dreesen turned into a saga, right? Because there was one of her memories was that there was like a little needle put up in her nose,
right,
and it pulled out a little ball. Kathie said that the ball was being put up into her nose. Betty and Dreesen talked about it being pulled out, but she never remembered anything going in. So then hers turns into this whole saga of that she was abducted before, but then she also got married to a big UFO guy that was probably putting that shit in her head.
Not the ball, the information.
Yeah.
To tell the story.
The old or the new information. I believe her initial account, but
that's the other weird thing too. Like maybe she was telling and now we're talking about Betty and Dreesen, telling the truth. But then she got preyed upon by this guy who was a big believer. Like, oh, okay, like this girl's been abducted.
Yeah.
I'm going to go be with her. And then he starts putting more in her head. And then it discounts her whole story because now she's being filled with tomfoolery.
Well, and we talked about the possibility that this is maybe more widespread and there's only a select few that kind of end up remembering this stuff. So maybe those stories like the Hills or the Fire in the Sky stories, when they remember it, they're kind of out of the program in the, the visitor, the abduction, like they're off the list now. Like you remember it, so we're not going to visit you anymore. And maybe this lady, Kathie, didn't remember it until later with this hypnotic regression testing. And so she had all these experiences in her past up until the time she actually remembered. You know what I mean?
Maybe she was an easier target for like that amnesia whatever medicine maybe they were giving her. She lasted longer with not remembering things.
Yeah, like maybe the remembering part is what knocks you out of the program. So all the people we don't hear about are maybe lifelong customers and they don't remember. And that's kind of how they want things.
That's an interesting take.
And I think
that's going to help you sleep tonight, pal.
No, it's certainly
you might
not.
already be a member.
Yeah, right.
And I think that gives some weight to Travis Walton's theory about why he was abducted with the Fire in the Sky stuff, that he wasn't supposed to be abducted. They saw the UFO in the woods floating, hovering.
He's like, oh, let me go look at this.
Yeah, and everyone's like, hey, fucko, stop. Right. And he went right underneath of it. So his theory after all these years was that he got hurt, that something, the propulsion system or something hurt him, and they picked him up and healed him back and then just dumped him off.
I mean, yeah.
They're like, oh, we didn't mean to do that.
Yeah.
You weren't even supposed to be a part of any of this.
And that makes complete sense.
I don't know. This is the first one. Everything else has been one-offs. This is the first one that is really that true abduction thing where people seem to be like this lifelong, it's like a breeding process almost is what a lot of it is. What a lot of it sounds like. We're going to talk about next week. There's alien human hybrids. There's babies. There's abductions that Kathie has where she's just told to hold these babies because these beings don't understand love like that. They don't understand nurturing. So they just pick people back up. Like, yeah, we just need you to hold the baby. Like, give them that human interaction.
Oh, boy.
It gets pretty wild.
That's a whole nother thing, man.
Yeah.
It's quite a story.
It is.
I'm intrigued.
It's like the most in-depth abduction we're going to get into. It's a lot to process and to think about.
Just ponder it.
I still 100% maintain, and this is coming from me, not Ian, that you can believe that ghosts are not real, but aliens are. I 100% stand by that.
You can believe anything you want, buddy.
That's right. It's still real to me, damn it. All right, some shout outs to some new patrons. Thank you very much to Penny Tift, Daniel Cuss, Melanie Fagan, Nick, Sid Muller, Adrian, Dawson, Jennifer Rose, Tanya from Down Under, Dylan Einarson Van Hoosier, Jay Salazel, Tristan Machado, Angie Dunlap, Ken Coping, Jenny Clark, Stacy Lucanen, I butchered that one. Sorry, Stacy. Samantha Cersei, Zach Tinker, Chippy, Chris Larson, Stussy Koch, Kasia, Liz, Emily Dennison, Mal, Sarah Isaacson, Enby, Patrick Malkerns, Agnes, Kaylee, Richard Swiss, a.k.a. Dick Cheese.
Richard Swiss.
Oh, Dick Cheese. Sheebs, Rhett Fanter, Tori Dew. Freya is going through a separation, and Necronomipod is the only thing that makes her laugh at the moment, so thank you.
Aw, sorry to hear that.
Yeah.
You want Mike to come over and bang you out for a couple hours to make you feel better?
I only do cut calls, Pat. She's single.
That's true.
I only want it if it's someone else's.
Understood.
Marry Dave, fuck Ian, kill Mike. Okay, well, thanks for the money. I'm going to use it for a night with your mom, and she'll owe me change. Caitlin, Westland Claims, Matt Power, Faith, Meredith, Albert. Thank you all very much. We are at patreon.com/Necronomipod. Appreciate you all listening. Ian, what do you got?
For iTunes, I won for Rip Jade 0309, Chase DC 93, Tyler living in Brooklyn. This is the one that I had issue with. In this review, we were getting like destroyed for our candy bar choices. And
What the fuck's that supposed to mean?
well,
We like delicious candy bars.
Tyler was offended that Reese's were not in anyone's top 3. And I would just like to say, I wanted it to be in my top 3. I was just told that I could not have it because it's not a candy bar.
Who told you that?
Yeah.
This guy.
He told you Reese's wasn't a candy bar?
Yeah, he said that wasn't part of the
Did we
game.
talk about that off air? Like
No, it was on air.
Because it was a circle and not a bar?
Yeah, something like that.
Fucking rude.
But that would have been my
I mean,
top.
it makes sense. It's not a candy bar.
See?
It's just a candy.
He's denying you again now. Part 2.
I mean, don't get me wrong. They're trash. I always give those away, and if I can't find anyone, I literally throw them
What's
away.
wrong with the Reese's?
It's disgusting.
Or Reese's. Reese's? We always say Reese's and people get angry about it.
It's Reese's.
It's Reese's Pieces. And we always say Reese's Pieces and people are like, are you guys fucking idiots?
So it's a Reese's peanut butter cup.
Reese's.
Because he's talking about that, not the pieces.
Yeah, Reese's.
It's the same company. I'm just saying we've been in the past told we're imbeciles for saying Reese's Pieces.
I'll fucking say Reese's Pieces if I want.
Look, I'm going to be honest. I think I've always thought it was Reese's. Reese's?
It's Reese's.
Yeah, that sounds
Reese's,
obnoxious.
not Reese's.
Okay.
We always say Reese's. I do. I have a couple blind spots. I admit it.
Yeah.
Reese's Pieces sounds better, right?
Yeah.
So that's what it is.
So they're trying to say that it's a rhyme, Reese's Pieces? Like that's the whole gimmick?
Oh, I don't know.
Reese's. And we said Reese's.
But they're saying it's supposed to be like Reese's Pieces.
Right.
Like it all rhymes. Like it's a
Right.
thing.
Yeah,
Get
Reese's.
the fuck out of here with that. That's so stupid.
Well, anyway,
Go back to Texas, jabronis.
Tyler, thank you. Next one, they look like they hit their keyboard. Dave's
Was
right.
it 5 stars at least?
Yeah, it was 5 stars.
Thanks.
Dave's right nut.
Hell yeah, brother.
And I think I said this one last week, and Jess Black 2.
What about Samantha Loves Dave?
I think you discussed her
She
last
was
week,
on here
Dave.
somewhere.
Yeah, I'm going to keep that going every week.
This will be the
review.
3rd week.
Samantha Loves Dave.
She gets a shout out every week now for life.
She has a great name.
Dave, what do you got?
I don't think I have anything. I did have something. I completely just forgot about it.
You need a minute? You want to go take a piss break? You had something good? Something juicy? Something as juicy as a Reese's Pieces?
No, I guess I don't have anything. I would just like hats off to that patron, Mary Dave Kill Mike. Good taste.
Yeah. Well, don't forget fuck Ian.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That too.
Their mom was okay. She still owes me my change. We are on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube at Necronomipod. Amazon.com, search Necronomipod for all of our latest merch. Necronomipod.com for our stickers. And Patreon.com, search Necronomipod if you wish to subscribe to all the bonus content. We did drop earlier this week that Scott Hall free bonus show. That was just something fun we were doing. If you are a patron, you still are getting your 3 full bonus shows this month. I think we already dropped one. You got 2 more coming to you. That was not, we didn't give away one of your bonus shows, so you still got something else coming to you. So hope you guys enjoyed the Scott Hall show. Hope you guys enjoyed this one, and part 2 next week on this.
All right, you guys ready for a cool down beer?
Cheers.